opening the sutra.
Good afternoon, everybody. Then said Mahamati in the Lankavatara Sutra, chapter entitled Tathagatahood, "Pray, tell us, Blessed One, about the self-nature of the Tathagatas." Pray, tell us, Blessed One, about the self-nature of the Tathagatas. The Blessed One replied, well, if the Tathagata is to be described by such expressions as made or unmade, expressions such as effect or cause, well, then we would have to describe him as neither made nor unmade, neither effect nor cause. But if we so described the Tathagata, we would be guilty of dualistic discriminations. Sorry, I read that right. This gets a little tangly, this one, heads up. You think you're confused now? Just wait. I can help. More confusion. If the Tathagata is to be described by such expressions as made or unmade, effect or cause, we would have to describe the Tathagata as neither made nor unmade, nor effect nor cause. But if we so described, then we would be guilty of dualistic discrimination. So if you have to say something, we wouldn't say this, we wouldn't say that. But if you did say something, it's kind of an affront. If the Tathagata is something made, so now we're foraying into Buddhist logic, so hang on, okay? And we're gonna spend a little time here, track this very precisely. If the Tathagata is something made, the Tathagata would be impermanent. If the Tathagata is impermanent, then anything impermanent would be a Tathagata. If the Tathagata is something unmade, then all effort to realize Tathagatahood would be useless. That which is neither an effect nor a cause is neither being nor a non-being, and that which is neither a being nor a non-being is outside the four propositions. The four propositions belong to worldly usage. That which is outside them is no more than a word, like a barren woman's child. So are all terms concerning the Tathagata to be understood. That keeps going, but we're going to pause there for a second. There's a whole lot of if this, then that, if this, then that, cause, effect, cause, effect, cause, effect. And I want to bring attention to the Buddha here is being asked in words to describe the nature of reality. And Mahamati knows that. Oh, go ahead and describe, world-honored one, the true nature of the Tathagata, the true nature of the self, right? Now, one of the features about the sutra is that it recapitulates itself in vast cosmic scales of time. The Mount Lanka, right? The sacred mountain is where the Buddha of the age gathers, and all the Mahasattvas and disciples gather, and they ask again these same questions that get responded to again in the same way, this time voiced by this Buddha, then voiced by that Buddha. So this question of how, well, please talk about, tell us about the self-nature. Now the big feature here that isn't named is called Nagarjuna. Nagarjuna. I've heard different really good folks use both pronunciations. Probably both are wrong. So we'll pick one, Nagarjuna. But this was a figure who was very, very central. In fact, he's on our lineage chart. Those of you who have received the precepts, he's in the lineage chart that you have received. He's a central figure. Around, where do we have him? About 150, 250 of the Common Era. He's about as far distant from Bodhidharma as today is from 1776, say. Say America is something like 250 years old. That's about the distance between Nagarjuna and Bodhidharma. Okay. So this Nagarjuna was a very important figure in the Mahayana Buddhism. He's associated with Nalanda University, a college that was formed at the time to bring forth Buddhist ideas. And at the time, probably the Mahayana was a very small subset of folks. Okay. You've heard of a dilemma? This or that? Well, now we have a tetralemma, a four-pronged problem. It's much better than a common dilemma. You can have a trilemma, perhaps you've been involved in a few of those. But here we have a tetralemma, right? A four-part challenge, difficulty. And this is what the four propositions are. And if you don't know what these things are, you owe yourself at least a cursory encounter, okay? It's somewhat odd to do this in the belly of a session, but hopefully not by the end of it, you'll see. So there's a conceptual fabrication, okay, that the thinking mind and the memory generates. And so the experience is that this conceptual discrimination mind is incapable of perceiving Buddha nature. So what to do with this? Well, out of great kindness and beneficence, Nagarjuna gives us this tetralemma to help us free ourselves from the burden of conceptual thought. It basically has these four propositions. There's existence, that's the first one. There's non-existence, so that's thesis and negation of thesis in Western terms. And then you have both exists and not exists. That's a conjunction of the two, A plus B, A and B, right? So exists, does not exist, both exists and not exists, or the neither, the disjunction, neither A nor B, neither exists nor does not exist. And the thing about this is to realize this all falls under the heading of upaya, right? The whole purpose of this mental exercise, really, and it's serious. I mean, it's the Madhyamaka, the middle way school of Buddhism really lands itself here, the middle way between nihilism and eternalism, right? This paired with this business about not relying on any of these four assertions as absolute truth, but actually realizing that each one of them is a complete fabrication. The fabrication of existence. That's easy to kind of see. Well, I posit that it is raining out there. There's an it that's raining, It's baked into the language. There's some permanent it, which is now reigning somehow. Upon a glancing, study, it falls away. Right? Pick your example. The cart, the horse, the empire, the language, the culture. Does it exist? Does it not exist? If you cling to its existence, you're stuck. But also, too, equally, if you cling to non-existence, are you stuck? Your mind will just make another story out of that. Equally sticky, equally suffering-producing. One is no more advantage than the other. So you get crafty and say, well, it's both. No consolation to be found there either. Don't land on that as the mental solve. All of this is the intellect, by the way, trying to do what it does, which is figure things out. Okay, well, if it's not this, if it's not that, if it's not both this and that, fine, it's neither this nor that. See if I care. No, that doesn't solve anything either, okay? So each one of those, basically, if you take one of those statements or any combination thereof to be an absolute truth, then you're just as stuck as anybody else, okay? These conceptual fabrications arise from the intellect, you see. And they don't actually touch the real nature of things. Of course, words are it too. Thoughts and feelings are it too. But don't be quick to just say that as a justification for your stupor and for your suffering. Take in what the masters are saying here. Do not be hooked by these conceptual frameworks. Don't be fooled. And this really is a practice guide, okay? This is field notes of a Sherpa who's gone up and down this trail countless numbers of times. These are the pitfalls, okay? You really don't want to indulge the sort of caveats and gotcha kind of thinking around this stuff, okay? It's not helpful, particularly if you're intellectual, okay? If you kind of are somewhat fast in wit and you can think your way out of a paper bag, you can think yourself right out of your Zen training. Be careful about it, okay? All your lovely thoughts, and then 10 years later, what the hell have I been doing for the last decade? Okay? You can do better than that. So this fourfold proposition, this logical way of breaking through things, it's a kind of deconstructionism, you see. Basically the idea is to exhaust conceptual thought. And this hopefully brings one into a direct, non-conceptual realization of noble wisdom. Now, interestingly enough, koan practice as a way of engaging the non-dual mind had not arisen at this time. That had not yet emerged as a training methodology. This is coming from Nagarjuna's attempt to use the conceptual mind to free one from the conceptual mind. Four propositions belong to worldly usage. That which is outside them is no more than a word, like a barren woman's child. And so are all terms concerning the Tathagata to be understood. So what is this barren woman's child? Why throw that out? Well, it doesn't exist, does it? The childless person's child, if you take it literally at its face value. Let's pick another, perhaps less loaded one. Sky flowers. Can you imagine a sky flower? A beautiful, maybe rainbow flower in the sky? It's got little wings, maybe. Its little roots kind of reaching around. Sky flowers. Flying pigs. Oink, 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 oinking away. Square circles. Purple turtle fins. Bring me the purple turtle fin. The rainbow-colored ice flames. The weight of a rainbow. The smell of a shadow. Stone bird's call. The dozen-legged spaghetti monster. Cactus feathers. On and on. You know, how easy is it to concoct fanciful, non-existent terms? Sky flowers, flying pigs, cactus feathers. And yet, your mind can make a thing out of that, can it not? Oh, flying pigs, of course. I got the tattoo. So, the Tathagata here, the Buddha is saying, careful. Whatever word you pick has no self-existence, like the barren woman's child, like sky flowers, like flying pigs, like square circles, like purple turtle wings, like ice fire. Make up your own. Have fun with it. Consider it an assignment for an off day. But the Buddha is saying, does a sky flower exist? Does a sky flower not exist? Well, you just saw one in your mind's eye. Well, so it both exists but doesn't exist? No, that doesn't cut it. Well, it neither exists nor not exists. No, simply sky flowers are unborn. Do you see? See, Nagarjuna wants us to be able to break free from this prison of language. And it's not just English, by the way. You know, if you study languages, as some folks do, you know, English is a pretty strange, hobbled together Frankenstein language, you know. There are some that are far more syllabic or more vowel heavy. There are some that are far more leaning to logic, some to feeling, etc. But, so the teachings assert, it doesn't matter what the language is. The fact the mind does this is what needs to be reckoned with and what you need to be free of. Free from being bound to these words and ideas while using them freely. You see? It would be no improvement if you were to lobotomize the language centers of the brain in your search for enlightenment. This would be a grave and most regrettable mistake. That's not the answer. Buddha used words. Bodhidharma used words. My teacher spoke many of them at me. I still feel them. So, are all terms concerning the Tathagata, the thusness, suchness, true nature, to be understood? What, in other words, what is right relationship to language? That's what this is about. What is right view, right speech, true, miraculous right speech? It has to do with the words being live words. You know, sometimes koan study can descend into something like a stupid parlor game. It can feel like it's, I don't know, performative, dry, just kind of silly. And when it feels that way, it's because you're coming from your intellect. And coming from the intellect, it is. In fact, it's no use to you if you're coming from your intellect. Just cut it out. However, if you're coming from your Dharma eye, okay, if your intuitive mind is responding to the koan, then this is live. And that's on you, the practitioner. You have to bring your live words, your whole self into this. And it's very tricky because the intellect in many ways and places is the arbiter of success and failure. You know, as I said earlier today to somebody in an interview, you know, can an engineer actually make a bridge that will put up durably with the shear forces that it has to contend with? Well, you better be able to think clear. There's a place for it. The language of the law and interpreting it. This is serious. It should be serious business, for God's sake. But there's something beyond bridges and laws. There's something beyond even the Buddha's ability to just kind of pass by. To look very carefully at how this language is operating in you. How this mental phenomenon, sky flowers, you will live and die and kill others over your sky flower. Oh yeah. It's happening every day. You know, put in a little nationalism, a little tribalism, some kind of a God concept, add a helping of justice, self-righteous feeling. You've got a horribly volatile mix. They're not people anyway. Sky flowers. Do you see it? Buddha continues. When it is said that all things are egoless, remember one of the kind of core themes in this sutra is the egolessness of self and the egolessness of things, the so-called two egolessnesses, okay? So here addressing, when it is said that all things are egoless, it means that all things are devoid of self-existent selfhood. Each thing may have its own individuality, but nevertheless, its own nature is of the same nature as a dream. Each thing may have its own individuality. And the sutra says the being of a horse, the individuality of a horse is not the same as the individuality of a cow. It is such as it is of its own nature. A horse makes this sound, a cow makes this sound, a pig makes that sound. Perhaps some here have played the kid game. Cow goes moo, pig goes oink, giraffe goes. We like them giraffes. As such, it is of its own nature and is thus discriminated by the ignorant. So the uninstructed worldling, you know, just takes things at face value. Oh, there's Sally and Susie and Tom. There's a sky flower. What else is new? Just takes them all to be factually self-existent. But nevertheless, the true nature of these things is the nature of a dream or a vision. That is why the ignorant and the simple-minded who are in the habit of discriminating appearances fails to understand the significance of egolessness. Again, it's not that the Buddha isn't there. It's the way in which the Buddha is there that's misperceived. It's not that the coffee cup doesn't actually exist. It's holding the coffee admirably, which also exists, thankfully. In fact, speaking of, But it's the way in which that whole thing just happened that needs to be correctly perceived. Why? Because if you are essentially misperceiving reality and then living off those assumptions, you are constantly running headlong into this wall and thinking it's the wall's fault, or it's somebody's fault, or someone rescue me, or I'll rescue you, or what. It just goes on and on and on. Even if you're sitting alone in a cave in the Himalayas, you'll bring your prison with you. Unless you can unlock yourself from it right here, right where you are. So, those who are in the habit of discriminating appearances, remember in the 5 dharmas of the Lankavatara, form and appearance rise. Discrimination is made, names come, and this self-reinforcing pattern just goes on unexamined. It is rather prajna, wisdom, the Dharma eye that sees Tathagata Garbha, true nature. And the fact that these words maybe are unusual to us and uncomfortable in our phoneme set as English speakers, maybe is an advantage. Maybe you won't grab onto them quite so much, although probably you will. It is not until discrimination is gotten rid of that the fact that all things are empty and unborn and without self-nature can be appreciated. Again, this is Mumon's comment. Unless you cut off the mind road, you are a ghost clinging to bushes and grasses. Even Buddhist thoughts and dharmically correct, quote unquote, thoughts Mahamati, the sutra goes on, all these expressions as applied to the Tathagatas are without meaning. Divine light mind, noble mind, emptiness, suchness, thusness, on and on and on. What does it mean to relinquish all views? One of the core teachings from Nagarjuna's expression of the Dharma. Relinquishing all views. Egolessness, and yet individual expression. Egoless, and yet individual. How can it be? This no self-nature is the Tathagata. That is the noble wisdom. Mahamati, all these expressions as applied to the Tathagatas are without meaning, for that which is none of these is something removed from any ability to be measured. And that which is removed from any measurement turns into a meaningless word. It doesn't correspond to anything. That which is a mere word is something unborn, sky flowers, turtle feathers. That which is unborn is not subject to destruction. How could you destroy a turtle feather? That which is not subject to destruction is like space. And space is neither effect nor cause. That which is neither effect nor cause is something utterly unconditioned. This business of cause and effect and karma, something utterly unconditioned. That which is unconditioned is beyond any mental cognition, beyond any reasoning's ability. And that which is beyond all reasoning, well, that's the Tathagata. The self-nature of Tathagatahood is far removed from all predicates and measurements. The self-nature of Tathagatahood itself is noble wisdom. Now, centuries later, in fact, the 12th century, Hongzhi gave some teachings on this. Let's hear the same wisdom from another voice. From the acupuncture needle of Zazen. The essential function of all Buddhas, the functional essence of all the ancestors, is to know without touching things and to illuminate without encountering objects. Knowing without touching things, this knowledge is innately subtle. Illuminating without encountering objects, this illumination is innately miraculous. The knowledge innately subtle has never engaged in discriminatory thinking. The illumination innately miraculous has never displayed the slightest identification. Never engaging in discriminatory thinking, this knowledge is rare and without match. Never displaying the most minute identification, this illumination is completely without grasping. The water is clear right down to the bottom. Fish lazily swim on. The sky is vast without end. Birds fly far into the distance. The essential function, the essence function. I don't really like the English here. The English says the essential function, as though essential is describing the function as opposed to a non-essential function. I don't feel that's correct. I can't read it in the original. I'm not a scholar of the language, but when my Dharma eye says essence function of all Buddhas, and then it switches, the function essence of all ancestors. Buddha Dharma, Dharma Buddha. Essence, function, absolute, relative. Function, essence, relative, absolute. The essence function of Buddhas. The absolute relative of Buddhas. The relative absolute functional essence of all ancestors. What is essence function? What is function essence? What is guest host, host guest? Pure, impure, impure, pure. What is it? It is to know without touching, to illumine without encountering. What does it mean to know without touching? To illuminate an object without encountering it. Knowing without touching things, this knowledge is innately subtle. What is there to touch? Who's touching what? And yet knowing is there. Subtle, subtle, subtle. Illumining without encountering objects. Illumining form. Encountering nothing. How can you illuminate form without encountering nothing? Don't you have to encounter something to illuminate something? Apparently not. How could it be done that you illuminate a thing without encountering it? This illumination, Hongzhi says, is innately miraculous, inherently subtle, inherently miraculous. The miraculous functioning, illumining forms, encountering nothing. The knowledge innately subtle has never engaged in discriminatory thinking. This Dharma eye, the intuitive wisdom, has never engaged in discriminatory thinking. It doesn't do that. It just immediately presents. There's no if this, then that. If you're trying to respond from your koan with an if this, then that mind, you're coming from intellect. Kind of cut it out, huh? Or have you not yet noticed it doesn't avail you? But it's tricky. You think, oh, well, that wasn't the right one. Let me figure another one. And you go down the same tunnel and bring out different dirt, but it's the same dirt from the same tunnel. Nope. Oh, let me go find some more. You put on your little hat, your little illuminating. This is not koan study, okay? You don't sit there and try to reason it out. This is something where I'm so grateful for our Zen practice and our way of training. Because frankly, if I just encountered the 4 assertions and negations or whatever and thought it through, I don't know that that would quite do the trick for me. In fact, I'm quite sure it wouldn't. I could think myself into a knot around that pretty easy. But having gone through some koan training, I can see clear as day how correct and helpful that could be. So it's easy to say, oh, you know, koan study is stupid, or koans are great, but I'm stupid, or koans are great and I'm great, but the teacher is stupid. Any permutation thereof, you know, there's your trilemma. Right? But simply follow the instructions, as Rinsen Roshii points out over and over. Put the damn koan in your hara and shut off. Put the koan in your one point and sit. Okay? Koan study happens in the Doksan room. That's actually where it happens, okay? You just put the thing in there and forget about it. Stay with it, but don't hang on to it, and just let it kind of be there. And if you get pulled into stories and what all, see it, acknowledge it, let it go. Come back, lightly assert the koan, very lightly, and then just zazen. Non-clinging. That very act is a radical act, okay? That you're not making an enemy of intellect, but you're also not just relentlessly giving it the keys to the car and saying, take me where you want. No, it stays in its lane. It's maddening because you feel some pressure, you know. I know that Jisha's going to grab me and I'm going to have to go in there, and I know exactly he's going to say, well, what about it? And I'm going to be like, you and everybody else. But trust the process, okay? What is it like under this quote-unquote pressure? Because really it's artificial, right? I mean, we're manufacturing this together. It's an upaya. But what is it under such pressure to just not go down that same old smelly tunnel and bring out yet another sack full of the same damn dirt, this time with a smiley face on it? Oh, maybe a frowny face. No. Feels like dirt, smells like dirt. Yeah, dirt. No. You have to let that go. You have to trust yourself. And I mean, it's really a heroic thing. You have to really, when I say trust yourself, I mean trust your true self. You have to be completely free from notions of succeeding and failing and senior and junior and up and down and yes and no and all the other polarities. If you're coming in there trying to get the teacher to like you or to prevent them from not liking you or so that you'll like yourself or you'll like hate yourself a little less or any of these permutations, just drop the story, man. It's all sky flowers. It's all cactus feathers. It really is. Open the clenched hand of your mind's thought. Let go, needing to control everything. Trust, wait. Give space for your deeper self to actually communicate. It will. This knowledge, innately subtle, has never engaged in discriminatory thinking. Doesn't know a thing about it. Never will. This illumination, innately miraculous, has never displayed the slightest identification. Identification meaning, that is me. This is not me. That's that. I've identified. That's a soccer ball. It's a coffee cup. I'm an idiot. Oh, 1, 2, 3, guys. Very quick, slippery slope. That's a rug, that's a light. You're an idiot. This is a spring day. I love the spring day. You, I hate you. It's dirt from the same hole. This illumination, innately miraculous, this essence function, this function essence, has never displayed even the slightest identification. The function of the awakened one has no concept of self or other, no beings to be saved, no job to be done, no projects at hand. It's all innately accomplished immediately. Never engaging in discriminatory thinking, this knowledge is rare and without match. It's kind of interesting to me when I hear about folks that make great breakthroughs in science, say. Often if you interrogate the actual moment of the breakthrough, it's very much coming from what I would say is the Dharma eye. Einstein famously imaginatively rode a light beam in his imagination, and the equations came later to prove it, to back it up, and to make it workable. I think that's something like the correct order. The intellect has got to be sharp. It's much better to have a good, strong mind than not. But first is Dharma. Coming from Dharma, coming from true reality, let the intellect help. This is no problem. This is very good. Not being in contact with true reality, the intellect will make one up for you, whether you know it or not, whether you gave it consent to do so or not, whether it has your happiness in mind or not. Talk about fake news. The real fake news doesn't just come from your phone. Watch very carefully. It's worth knowing how to deconstruct these things. Better still, know how to taste the truth of reality directly. And then put your beautiful mind at the service of that reality. Never displaying the most minute identification, never thingizing anything. This illumination is completely without grasping. And this is the key. This is not allowing the mind to grasp and to clasp and to cling and to scar yourself or anything. Egolessness of self. Who is trying to get anything? What do you lack? Egolessness of things. There's nothing out there anyway. Water is clear right down to the bottom. Essence. Fish lazily swim on. Function. Another example. The sky, vast, 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 without end. Essence. And birds fly, fly, up and down, function. Unborn nature, yet individual expression. It's so clear, is it not? But what about you? What about when the teisho's over and the walk is done and you're again facing yourself as you should be on that cushion? Well, we'll see.
Beings are numberless. I bow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I bow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I bow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I bow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I bow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I bow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I bow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I bow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I bow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I bow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I bow to